August of 2021, my miracle was born. Her name is Eliana. There's a saying that you can't schedule a baby, that babies come on their own time. But not my daughter. My daughter knew her mom loves a good schedule. I was set to be induced on a Monday at 4 in the afternoon. That morning, I woke up kind of 2 in the morning and felt my first contraction. I wasn't sure if it was a contraction or not, so I went back to sleep. But sure enough, another and another. Finally, around 8 in the morning, my husband and I decided to call the hospital and see if we should come in early. They told us to wait until my scheduled induction time, unless the contractions got to 2 to 3 minutes apart. That meant it was go time. Now, the hospital we were delivering at was a couple hours away from our house, so we decided to pack up early, get down to the area, just make sure we were down there in case anything happened. On the drive down, my husband and I had what he calls one of the most interesting conversations of his life. Every time a contraction would hit, I'd stop mid-sentence and then just pick up right where I'd left off like nothing had happened. We got down to the area, had a nice lunch, walked into our scheduled induction time, and my contractions were exactly 2 to 3 minutes apart. My daughter, right on schedule. I call Eliana our miracle baby because before Eliana, like many, Neil and I struggled to start our family. We lost 5 babies to miscarriages before Eliana. We went to fertility specialists, doctors, hospitals, the university. No one could find anything wrong with me. No one could find anything wrong with Neil. No one could find anything wrong with our babies. We didn't have any answers. But we also had no answer for why Eliana worked. So when she arrived, I wanted to give her my everything. At the same time, I wanted to give my business team my everything. I've always been what you might consider a go-getter. I actually pulled my first all-nighter in 8th grade trying to get an A. I got that A, but then I promptly fell asleep in health class the next day, foreshadowing at its finest. While I was on maternity leave, I got recruited to a new company to lead a large sales and marketing organization. The company had recently merged together several organizations, and so they had a lot of work in front of them in terms of setting a new culture, a new vision, and they had some very anxious teams. So there I was, giving 110% to my daughter and 110% to my team. And for a while it worked. I was doing it all until the panic attack started. I sought out doctors and therapists and experts. Why can't I handle this? I should be able to handle this. I need to be able to handle this. The advice I got was all over the place. Try yoga, read a book, go for a walk. I was like, first of all, I don't have time for any of that stuff. But also, how is this helping me? And how does it all connect? And worst of all, when advice conflicts, whose advice is right? Fast forward to the summer of 2022, and my husband and I found out we were unexpectedly pregnant. I was thrilled, thinking, okay, now my body knows how to do this. We'll be able to add to our family. But we miscarried again. Our 6th baby lost. The loss sent me over the edge, and for someone who hates the idea of failing, I stepped down from my leadership role so that I could focus on my health and my family. I like to say I didn't just burn out, I completely crashed and burned. And unfortunately, I'm not alone. According to Deloitte, nearly 70% of executives have considered stepping down from their roles due to concerns about their well-being. Microsoft reports over 50% of managers feel burnt out. And Mercer takes it one step farther, saying that over 80% of employees report feeling at risk of burnout. We live in a culture that loves being always on. The message is clear: do more, achieve more, push yourself to the limit. But what we're all missing is that energy, your very capacity to do work, is not infinite. It needs to be protected, nurtured, and replenished. This is where your elite energy comes in. So let's begin by processing what the heck is your elite energy? Energy might sound like a little bit of a new agey term to some. You can nod your head if you thought that the first time you heard it. But actually, in physics, energy stands for the capacity to do work. And elite, as an adjective, stands for the best or most effective. So all together, when I say your elite energy, it stands for your personal best capacity. Now, I want to try a little exercise with you guys. Go with me here. It's called the 5 senses, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. So I want you to look around the room and find 5 things that you can see. Now, I want you to find 4 things that you can touch. Could be your clothes, tablecloth. 3 things you can hear. Thank you, airplane. 2 things you can smell. And 1 thing you can taste. What this exercise does is it takes your brain from an emotional state to a rational state. I learned it when I was going through my season of miscarriages to help me when I had a lot of anxiety about losing our babies. But I still use it today, even on airplanes, if there's turbulence, or if I just find myself in an emotional state. When I was going through my burnout journey, what I was missing was a tool, an exercise, something easy to remember, something to take all the components of my energy, my capacity, and put it into one easy to understand system. Something like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. And that's where your elite energy was born. So this device, lovely device sitting here on the table next to me, does anyone remember what it was called if you've read my book? You can shout it out if you did. Newton's pendulum. So sometimes people have this on their desk as a toy. You pull back one of the balls and it clicks back and forth. But actually, in physics, this teaches about the conservation of energy. And I love that as a parallel and a metaphor for your own energy, your own capacity. And so this is where the elite energy framework image gets its inspiration. So we start with your foundation, your personal values and beliefs, the bedrock that grounds you every day, the 3 to 5 principles that you personally want to represent to the world. We then move on to the core of your system, the 3 balls in the middle that stay steady as the 2 end balls go back and forth. That's what you do for your mind, your body, and your heart. Mind representing your mental health and wellness, health being a state of being or a goal, and wellness being the actions, the habits, the decisions you make to support your mental health. Body is your physical health and wellness, and heart is your relational or social health and wellness. You then move on to the 2 end balls, how you rest and how you reach. Rest is about how you recover, re-energize. Reach is about how you challenge yourself, do hard things, set goals for yourself. The key between the 2 ends of this pendulum is balance. Too much reach without enough rest, you burn out. Too much rest without enough reach, you stall out. You need both. And then finally, what you put your best capacity, your best energy towards, your unique purpose. Now, I've split it all up into distinct components, but the truth is what you do for one component impacts another. For example, your body. Science would tell us that when you move, when you exercise, your body actually releases feel-good chemicals called endorphins into your brain. It helps boost your mood, re-energize you, showing how something you do for your body impacts your mind. Similarly, research tells us that when you have strong relationships, strong social ties, that it actually improves your physical health, helps with longevity, lower stress, even helps your physical heart, showing that what you do for your heart impacts your body. We are complex. Our systems are complex, which is why your elite energy is a system where you fill out the individual components, but they all work together to invest in your well-being and unlock your best capacity. Now, while your elite energy is the framework, how you fill it in is incredibly personal. When I was going through my own burnout journey, I remember I got targeted with 2 back-to-back social media ads. The first one said, make your bed every day, start your day with discipline. I was like, all right, good advice. The very next ad said, don't make your bed in the morning. That's hustle culture. That's our problem. And I remember just sitting there thinking, I can't even get making my bed right. It can be overwhelming. Everyone shouting advice, what you should do, what you must do, what you need to do. But the truth is, what restores me might not restore you. What stretches me might not stretch you. The relationships that I find energizing might not be energizing for you. The elite energy is the framework, but how you fill it in to unlock your best capacity is very personal. So I'll give you an example from my own elite energy system. And so when I was reflecting on some of the exercises in the book, the 3 to 5 values and beliefs that I wanted to represent in the world was faith surrounded by grit, grace, growth, and gratitude. Every morning, I pour myself a cup of coffee before the day begins, and I remind myself, no matter what comes my way today, this is what I want to represent in the world and what I want to be remembered for. But as I facilitate this exercise for others, some people say dependability, or loyalty, or family, or joy, or health. The powerful part is you get to decide. As we move on to the core of the system, mind, body, heart, I love to walk people through a start, stop, continue exercise. Those of us in corporate America are probably very familiar with this exercise. But for those that aren't sure what it is, it's simply you go through your habits or activities and say, what do I want to start doing? What do I want to stop doing? And what do I want to continue doing? So an example for mine, for my mind, for my mental health, as I did this exercise, something I wanted to continue doing was different exercises like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. I love that it helps take my brain from that emotional state to the rational state, gives me tools in my tool belt. Something I wanted to stop doing was checking my work email and scrolling social media as soon as I woke up in the morning. So easy with my cell phone right there to just start scrolling, but it doesn't put my mental health in the best state. So I wanted to stop doing that. Something I wanted to start doing was to create more space for just pure joy, fun. I had gotten to the point when I was a working parent where every moment of my day needed to be so efficient, and I didn't let myself have any fun. I didn't invest in joy. But we also live in a world where we need to prioritize. We can't do everything. So I always ask people to take it one step further. If you were going to do just one thing, one action, one commitment for your mental health, what would you put in that box? What would be that action or activity or habit that you could commit to that helps you unlock your best capacity? For me, I put breaks in that box. Time that I schedule into my calendar to get up from my desk, otherwise I might not get up all day, and stretch and maybe go for a walk, just take a break so that I come back to my work re-energized. But for others, it might be journaling or fresh air, getting outside, or silence. You get to choose. We repeat this exercise for your body, your heart, rest, reach, and ultimately what purpose you want to put your best capacity towards. Your elite energy is the framework, but how you fill it in is incredibly personal. Finally, persevere. Do you know that in a perfect world, Newton's pendulum would never stop swinging? In a perfect environment, it would keep going forever. Its capacity never lost. But we don't live in a perfect world. There's job loss, health scares, grief, heartache, financial strain. I actually had the concept for Your Elite Energy back in late August of 2022. After completely crashing and burning earlier that summer, I was determined to live my life in more balance. I was committed to following the principles that I eventually wanted to bring into the world. Every morning, I'd start my day with coffee and reminding myself what I wanted to represent. I went and found a new job with an executive I had worked for before and admired, but made sure that I took plenty of breaks throughout the day. I woke up before my daughter and made sure that I would exercise every morning, my body commitment to move. And when I was with my daughter and my husband, I was trying to follow my heart commitment of being present with them. But despite all of this, I fell into the deepest depression I have ever experienced. Every morning, just trying to get out of bed felt nearly impossible. It was only my sense of duty to my job and my sense of responsibility to my daughter that got me up in the morning. Every night, I would cry myself to sleep, just miserable, dreading the thought of having to face another day. I felt really, really alone. My husband and I tried to seek out help. I went to a doctor and they looked at me and said, "What drug do you want to be on?" And I was like, "I have no idea." I have no clue. I went to my OBGYN and she told me that she was legally not allowed to help me and handed me a postcard with an email address. She said that they were supposed to have a 24-hour response time. I emailed them twice and never heard back. I went to my church and met with two really compassionate pastors who tried to hook me up with a Christian psychologist. I filled out her online form twice, never heard back. We sought out emergency services that my husband had access to through the military, but the therapist that we were assigned seemed overwhelmed with my level of grief and wasn't able to help us. I felt incredibly alone. One night, my husband was putting our daughter to bed, and I was alone in our bathroom and, just felt like I had reached the bottom of the barrel. I felt like I had gone to every human avenue to try and get help, and doors were just slamming in my face. I remember I looked in the bathroom mirror and just cried out, "God, what is wrong with me?" And in that moment, I heard an answer. Do a breast check. I did. And I found a lump. That lump actually turned out to be 4 lumps. I had 2 tumors in my right breast and 2 tumors in my lymph nodes. I had stage 3 triple-negative breast cancer. My husband Neil and I went into the oncologist in December of 2022 to fully understand what my diagnosis meant. When he walked into the room, he told us that I had a really aggressive form of breast cancer and that my chances of survival at that moment in time were 50%. I would have to start 6 months of chemotherapy immediately. I would lose all my hair. I would then have surgery, followed by daily radiation, and then another 6 months of immune therapy. The whole treatment plan would last a year. At that moment in time, I just went numb. I was like, what do you mean I have a 50% chance of survival? I have a 1-year-old daughter and 6 months of chemo? Where's my 10-day pill? Like every other illness. And I'm 38 years old. Like, where did this come from? I don't test positive for the genetics. At that moment in time, I didn't have capacity to think about resting or reaching or habits for my mind, body, heart. My system was just going through a major earthquake. The balls were flying all over the place. All I could do was cling to what I wanted to represent in the world, to my values and beliefs. And during the 6 months that was chemo, that's all I did. As the punch after punch of chemo treatment after chemo treatment hit me, I just survived. And I watched as God brought nurses and doctors and family and friends and coworkers to keep me going. When I got to my surgery, we had another miracle. The cancer was all dead. It was amazing news. That meant I got to graduate to radiation, and I still had to do 6 more months of immune therapy, but it was amazing news. The balls were no longer flying all over the place in chaos. But now my system was still. Something had to pull back one of the balls and get my system, my energy, my capacity going again. For those of us that are overachievers, it is very easy to want to pull back that reach ball and overachieve and set a new goal for ourselves. But when we go through something so traumatic, it's so important to start with rest, to get your mind out of that fight or flight mode, to give yourself time to process what you've been through. And so that's what I did. I tried to spend more time by myself, reflecting, resting, just being grateful for the fact that I got a second chance at life. When I was ready, I reestablished my habits for my mind, body, and heart. But they looked different than they did pre-cancer. I went back to work, but made sure to take plenty of breaks and take things slow. I went back to my commitment to move my body again, but I started with yoga and long walks, not the intense workouts that I was doing pre-cancer. For my heart commitment of being present with my husband and my daughter, I wanted to double down because I got more time with them. So I even signed up for a dance class with my daughter so that I could spend more time with her. And finally, when I felt ready, I wanted to reach again. I wanted to show that I was still alive, that I could still do hard things. And so, this first picture is what my husband snapped right before I went into surgery. It's a reminder to me of when I was in the worst physical health of my life, having just survived 6 months of chemotherapy and spent most of my time in bed. I wanted to go from that to running my first ever half marathon. So I selected Grandma's half marathon in Duluth, Minnesota. And this middle picture is from June of 2024, 1 year cancer-free. I ran 13.1 miles in the pouring rain. And this past weekend, I got to celebrate being 2 years cancer-free by again running 13.1 miles in celebration. My plan is to run a half marathon again for my 3-year and my 4-year anniversary. And then year 5, the year that my type of cancer is likely not to come back, I want to run a full marathon for the first time in my life. I might crawl across the finish line, because let's be real, I'm not going to be fast. But I just want to prove that I can do hard things and be grateful that I get to move and challenge myself and try and increase my capacity. My hope is that the elite energy system gives you a way to think about your capacity, your well-being, what you would put in those boxes. And so I want to leave you with this challenge. It takes work to take a step back from the day-to-day and really reflect on, what do I want to stay grounded in, no matter what comes my way? What do I want to be remembered for and represent in this world? What habits am I doing for my mind, body, and heart, my mental health, my physical health, and my relational health? Am I resting too much, or am I reaching too much? And ultimately, what do I want to put my best capacity, my elite energy towards? And so I want to challenge you to do the work, because you have a unique capacity, a distinct energy that nobody else in the world has. And this world needs the best of it. Thank you.